Music theory has built up a reputation for being a very confusing subject. Some jokes around the internet even suggest that it's harder than rocket science. But it doesn't have to be this way. There are things that we can do to help music theory make more sense. And I've got 5 of them for you today. This video is brought to you by my new course, Understanding Music Theory, where we're going to be taking a look at the most common frustrations that I've heard in talking to music theory students over the years. Hurdles like, music theory is too abstract. Music theory is a lot to memorize. Music theory kills creativity. Music theory just seems to be arbitrary rules. We're going to systematically help you overcome those hurdles and develop plans to help you sustainably move forward in your understanding of music theory. Not only that, but help you use music theory to your advantage in your life as a musician. The course starts on August 15th, but up until then, you can pre-order the course for a 20% discount. The link is in the description below. Number 1. View music theory through the lens of actual music. A lot of times we'll start with a theoretical concept and then we'll go find examples of that theoretical concept that reinforce the idea. This can be very efficient. It would be ridiculous to be sitting in a music theory classroom and have the professor introduce augmented 6 chords and then point at a mountain of sheet music and then say, "All right, class, go find them." But all music theory starts from a place of actual music. And by actual music, I mean music that has been written and transmitted or performed somehow, not like disembodied, no-context theoretical examples that we find in textbooks. But what do I mean that all theory comes from there? We've basically got 2 branches of music theory in the West: practical music theory and speculative music theory. Practical music theory looks at the pieces that have been written and makes observations about them. You may have heard this also referred to as descriptive music theory. Speculative music theory, on the other hand, either talks about ideas of what ideal music could be, which you may have also heard as prescriptive music theory, or it imagines pushing the boundaries of current techniques. Both of these subcategories, however, must still start from a place of actual music. All new music and all new music theory is in some way impacted by literally every single piece of music that's ever been written. Only whatever humans invented music way back in the day could truly talk about music theory in a purely speculative sense, completely disembodied from any other piece of music because there wasn't any other music. But also to remove music theory from actual music for most musicians is just far too abstract. And that's reasonable. I'm absolutely terrible at math that isn't applied to some subject like science or music. So applying actual music to music theory provides a personal connection. It removes that abstraction. And also having a personal connection will help you learn really anything easier, not just music theory. Number 2, integration into instrument learning. Many of your instrument teachers may already be doing this. Or maybe your choir/band/orchestra director did this. Either way, learning music theory as a part of learning an instrument can provide another personal connection and another practical application of music theory. And whether or not you realize it, there is a lot of music theory that's hidden in the skills that you need in order to play the instrument or to play repertoire. Things like scale patterns, or chord spellings, or chord voicing, and what your role is in that chord. All of that is music theory. So is performance practice. Knowing that you typically ornament a melodic line in a Baroque piece is performance practice and therefore music theory. Knowing how to improvise a jazz solo, that requires music theory. You're using music theory all of the time in your daily life as a musician, whether or not you realize it. So if you're looking to understand music theory, recognizing where you're already using it in your daily life as a musician can be very helpful. Number 3, learning why/getting clear explanations. This may not be the case for every person, but for me personally, it's very important in just about every situation in life for me to know why. This can easily be accomplished by first asking the question, why? Why are parallel fifths considered bad? Why does spelling matter? Why do chords function the way that they do? And is that always the case? Asking those questions will lead you on a journey to discover why. Maybe you have a teacher or another musician friend who is knowledgeable in music theory and can just simply tell you those answers. But maybe you have to dig a little bit deeper on your own. And let me tell you, what you find along the way can be just as useful as the answer to the question you originally asked. Another helpful thing is to learn the why of music theory as a whole. What is music theory is a good question, but let's not forget why is music theory. Perhaps most practically to most musicians is that music theory gives us a common nomenclature that allows us to communicate effectively with other musicians. And finally, in this section, ask the question and really figure out the answer to why does music theory matter to me personally? Answering all of these why questions can greatly advance your understanding of music theory. Number 4, memorize the basics and then look for relationships. One of the most common frustrations that I hear about music theory is that it's a lot to memorize. And sure, it can be a lot to memorize all of those numbers that are thrown at you all at once. But within music theory, there's always a way to figure out what it is that you're looking for. There's a method to figure out what key that you're in. There's a method to figure out what function a chord plays in a particular key. For everything that you need to memorize, there's also a method for figuring it out. That's very different from a subject like chemistry, where there's no way, unless you just have it memorized, that you would know that oxygen is the 8th element. The only way you can know that is to have your periodic table in front of you, or to pop open the hood of an oxygen atom and count the protons. Point being, music theory is better than chemistry. But over time, with enough practice and exposure, those things that you need to memorize will just naturally seep into your brain, and it will make things a lot quicker. However, once you have the basics down, shift your focus from memorization to looking for relationships. Once we move past the basics, music theory isn't about memorization anymore. It's about analysis. So ask the question, how does X relate to Y? This is a question that I ask in the Score Study Field Guide. Some of the basic relationships are X is like Y. For example, the melody in measure 56 is like the melody in measure 73, only the rhythm is different. X is not like Y. For example, the harmony in the A section is diatonic, but the harmony in the B section is chromatic. Or maybe it's X is Y. This melody from before reappears at the end. I would venture out to say, and others may disagree with me, but the essence of music theory is relationships. How does one musical thing relate to another musical thing? So shift your focus away from music theory is one analytical model to memorize to music theory is a collection of analytical models to employ. And number 5, practice. Just like every other skill in life, practice is the key to getting better at music theory. For basic concepts like chord spelling and scales, you can find a number of resources online that will help you with that. And most of them are free. For advanced topics, I hold that analyzing music is the best way to practice. Find a piece using a concept that you want to learn, and then figure out how the composer used that concept within the context of the piece. This is one of the main reasons that I created the Score Study Field Guide, which you can get for free in the description below. And finally, listen to a lot of music. This goes back to applying music theory to actual music, but listening to music and just listening to it still counts as practicing music theory. Remember, music theory is just as much about what you hear as it is about what you see. So there are 5 tips to help you get better at understanding music theory. If you're wanting to go even more in depth on all of this and more, and to develop strategies to help you reach your goals in music theory, sign up for my new course, Understanding Music Theory, which is 20% off until August 15th. And make sure you pick up my Score Study Field Guide in the description below. I'll see you next time.